Strickland in 4th. Mason Rocco, we talked about salvaging 5th place after an aggressive ride as well. And then Zach Nair holding on for 6th place on the day, but
so I won
enough to hold on to the overall win here at the Walmart Joe Martin Stage Race. So as we get ready for our pro women, they should be rolling here pretty soon.
Or if I'm going for the general classification. We'll kind of have to see how this thing plays out. It's going to be interesting.
And here we go. Your women's start line inside 30 seconds to their race start.
10 seconds. Start winding.
Well, the one thing we know for sure is that Jackie Godby's going to get some space on this group. That happens every race here in the ERL. But the question is the group behind them, which always turns into a good battle. So we'll watch this first selection to figure out who the core group is going to be today. And then we'll watch how they play the game here in the crit. Hardest part of the race right here. Aside from maybe the last 300 meters, the initial selection when everyone leaves the start line, the early race energy, a lot of times has you wondering, when will things calm down? Well, in an hour-long criterium, sometimes they don't.
In an hour-long criterium, sometimes things calm down in 61 minutes.
All right, so Godby already getting away here.
All right.
And this is the group that we're really going to be keeping our eye on. Actually, Miller going to catch on to Godby's wheel here. Maybe Jackie Godby going to give herself a rare rest day to just sit in the group here for a little bit.
Here's the climb.
That would be very interesting. This would be a completely different race than anything else that we've seen this season.
Miller going to try and hang with Godby as long as she can here today. We talked about this also. Riders sort of using Jackie Godby as a benchmark, and the goal being trying to stay with Godby longer and longer every week in the ARL. That means that you're getting better as Jackie Godby's getting better, but I think that's what Miller may be trying to do here, just see how long she can hang with Godby, keeping her in the group. Now, Godby's going to shine on these uphill sections. This is where Miller is really going to have to make sure that she keeps an eye on Godby if she wants to stay with her. Braun and McGregor going to try and go too, so both of these riders are going to challenge themselves today to try and hang with Jackie Godby.
This is super interesting, super exciting to see, a very different start to these races than we have, in the last couple stops in the series, but
That's
also definitely different than yesterday. Looks like Godby's going to try to go again, but Kim Miller and Braun McGregor feeling obviously very good today, and I wonder how that's going to shake out with the rest of the group.
It's like Valkenhorst going to be the last one to get in here. A little split back behind them to York, Larson, and Anders. So this is going to turn into 3 riders, or 3 groups on the course. Godby solo, Ayala, Miller, like McGregor, and Valkenhorst in group 2.
It's going to be rough.
And then York, Larson, and Anders behind them.
But we got this. Took the stage yesterday. I think we could take the stage today if we could just grind down Watkins. Watkins is number 1 in the overall standings. I'm number 2. I'm a minute behind him.
All right, so now we look at
So
the
to win
wattage
the
between these two
overall,
groups. You can see Jackie Godby with a
I have to
consistently
beat him by
higher
like
wattage than the group behind her.
quarter of a lap.
Part of that is because she's solo.
So
These
I need to
riders in
break
the group
away.
are saving wattage. But part of that is because Jackie Godby is
But I need someone to
one of the
come with
greatest
me.
virtual cyclists of her time.
I'll see if I could get in touch with beats. Yeah, these are all real. Right now we're listening to the coverage broadcast. They're covering the women's race right now, but they'll pop over to us too. Here comes the first climb.
Well, Godby back to doing what she does best. Very similar to the way that things played out yesterday. But again, what we were really watching is for second place behind her. So as we go back and take a look at the Mount Sequoia Road Race yesterday, Godby looking very similar in her position, but it was the Larson, Ayala, Miller,
Watkins
Anders,
right
McGregor group
wheel.
that really made things interesting. It
killing me
started
now.
with a group of 6. They were looking really strong, everyone riding together. You see 3 of the Velocity Vixen jerseys, 3 of the Rose Beast Mode riders. Eventually, they took it down to 4 as it got more and more selective here at 38 kilometers of racing to go. And then eventually they would shed 1 more onto the closing laps, or the closing kilometers, I should say, of the Mount Sequoia Road Races. They got it down to just Miller, Ayala, and McGregor. And so the big question was, who was the best climber in the closing kilometers out of this group of 3? And Bronwyn McGregor answered that question with an exclamation mark. Saw Miller trying to hold on. Ayala didn't really contest it as McGregor put in some huge wattage and made her way up to the front for the stage win. So McGregor got to be feeling good heading into the day today. Saw her riding pretty strong on the front back of the main group. Her Velocity Vixen teammate, though, Erin Ayala, certainly going to be targeting this day. She has proved to be one of the best sprinters in the Echelon Racing League this year. So maybe McGregor had her day yesterday, and we'll see if Ayala can scrape together a field sprint win today behind Jackie Godby.
Yeah, Ayala is definitely the rider most known for her sprint in this field. She's just super powerful, and you can kind of see that when we look at her power profile compared to that of Jackie Godby. But I don't know if this course is going to be the best for Ayala, just given this really hard finishing kick. So this could be another battle between her and McGregor,
That
of course,
uphill to
never
the finish
counting out
line
Kim
is
Miller.
brutal.
So it's still, I think it's going to come down to
Hackleton
probably
is
the same 3 that we
the
saw yesterday,
strongest
unless, Vulcan Horse is able
so
to
far.
have a big comeback after yesterday's ride. I think that we're going to see a pretty similar shakeout to yesterday.
Oh, Watkins dropping back.
See York behind them, about to catch on to the back of this group, as it looks like she left Larson and Anders behind. Good move from York here to try and catch the train leaving the station.
Let me see if I get attacked.
Yeah, I wonder if York
drop
is a
him.
rider that's a little bit more suited for the shorter efforts than the longer efforts. She may have had to play it a little bit more conservatively yesterday because, if she knows that she's
Nah, he's
not a
back.
rider that is, super comfortable going the distance, she's not going to be able to go with our leading group. But today, with this race being a little bit shorter, being just 35K, this might be a little bit of a confidence boost for her if she's a shorter distance rider.
See a few riders just peeking into the red zone here to make their way up at 30K to go. I don't think we'll see any concerted effort for these riders to try to get away. I think this is mostly just about trying to save as much wattage as you can early on. Try to take the Mason Roca approach to riding in the first few kilometers here. Go back and take a look at yesterday's results as we talk about the efficiency of the riders. We always like to look at who had the most efficient day yesterday. Certainly would have had plenty of time to work out their watt per kilo, but you see Braun and McGregor with a 3.35. Kim Miller held it at 3:04. Ayala very close at 3:06, and then Jackie Godby getting her workout in on the front at 4 watts per kilo. So probably a higher average watt per kilo today, Ellen. Would you expect to see because of the short, fast efforts coming out of the corner, does that raise the average, or do we even know?
You know, there might be a way to know this, but I don't know it. It would really depend on whether we're looking at normalized power or regular power, because there is going to be so much coasting. So some of these riders, if it's averaging in the zeros, they're going to have significantly lower power today, but that's why a lot of criterium racers will look at their normalized power, because it's taking out any really, really big dips in power, so that's not going to count towards the average. So I'm assuming that the watts per kilo for today is calculated based on the entire power file. So based on that, I think we'll see slightly lower power today, but you know, it really just depends on how it's calculated.
Godby widening her lead up
So far, so
over
good.
700 meters in front of the group now. Looks like she's dropping her average down a little bit. We also have our men's B race underway over in a separate virtual world, a separate virtual Fayetteville world, where looks like Marco Lopez back to doing what he does, riding on the front of this men's B group. Looks like some new names joining this one today. I see Joe Bernier down in 9th place. Joe races in our para races earlier. Marco Lopez, a little wave for the camera there. He's got a new setup today, a new camera angle.
I think it's a totally different setup. Usually he has a closet door to his right. I think he might be in a new room.
Maybe the most muted kit that we've seen from Marco Lopez, the fashionista of the men's B race.
You know, it's hard to go wrong with an all-black kit, but yeah, definitely the least energetic that we've seen so far. Maybe his kit is representative of how he's feeling today.
There's Gargillo back at the front in his foundation kit. Looking good, Dave. Gargillo keeping it tough out there, out of the saddle, and it's going to put him at the front of the group. There's Joe Bernier over in our men's B race. Now, Joe is known for his waves when we get him on air here, so we'll see if we get a Joe Bernier wave. Joe, a Paralympic gold, silver, and bronze medalist. Went to 3 Paralympics, 2012, 2016, and 2020. He's got a gold, 2 silvers, and a bronze on the track.
We got to drop Watkins. Got to drop Watkins.
Joe rides in the men's C3 classification. Out of the Chicagoland area, he rides with that Triple X Racing team on the road a lot. Same team as Jackie Gobby, or maybe Athletes by Design. Chicago's got a lot of good clubs. It is Athletes by Design. Joe's Club hosting some of their winter races on RGT. So Joe's been spending a lot of time racing on RGT.
But don't turn on the heat.
He's got a little humor about him. He lost his right arm in an industrial accident. That is his paraclassification. So he rides with one arm. All of his social media handles are, I think it's Lefty13. Back over to Jackie Godby at the front of her women's race. Starting to pick up some lapped riders here, as is to be expected with Jackie Godby. Meanwhile, the Ayala, Valkenhorst, Miller, and McGregor group still all together. Looks like Ayala taking a much stronger approach to riding today, much more aggressive, much more present at the front. Maybe trying to wear some of these other riders out. Obviously, her teammate, Bronwyn McGregor, arguably the strongest out of this group based on the time trial and road race results yesterday. So Ayala and McGregor have to figure out what to do about the two Rose Beast Mode teammates, Valkenhorst and Miller. It's a rare occasion where you have a 2 versus 2 scenario. Tactically, this is not something that you come across a lot in real life, where you have two teammates, two sets of two teammates.
Yeah, that is a very sort of fun outcome of today's race so far, having these two sets of teammates. And like you said, Brad, it's so rare to see that happen at the front of races like this. Where typically really the goal is to just have one teammate represented in any breakaway, but because today's field, this isn't as much of a breakaway as it is just a selection. I think that we're able to see this sort of fun dynamic play out.
Talk about ways McGregor can try to help Aaron Ayala to win a sprint today. One of them would be trying to do a lead out, which is pretty tough on RGT because the other riders can very easily steal that lead out. There is no positioning, so it'll kind of kick you off the wheel. It's pretty tough to drag a teammate to the line in a sprint. What McGregor can do for Ayala, though, is try and wear out the other two Rose Beast Mode riders. Keep that tempo high on the front. Let Ayala sit at the back and draft. So maybe as we get down towards the end of this, we see McGregor taking some bigger pulls on the front. Not quite attacks, but just trying to wear out Valkenhorst and Miller, forcing them to close gaps, things like that. And then letting Ayala kind of sit in, draft, and then maybe launch her sprint in the last few hundred meters.
Brad, I think that's a really great observation about not being able to do a lead out so much on RGT. Something I hadn't really thought of, but yeah, there is no ability to position. You can't, hold a wheel necessarily. Someone is able to just hop in front of you. So I think that that's something that I hadn't really considered, not being as experienced with racing on RGT or just on any real virtual platforms, to be honest. That's something that you don't really consider the impact that it can have on the way that a race plays out.
Seems like we learn something new every day here in the Echelon Racing League. Yesterday, it was the hydration dilemma that riders faced on a long day, because in a virtual race, we learned, well, obviously, can't get off the bike to go to the bathroom, so you have to be very careful with how much liquid you consume during the day to make sure that you're staying hydrated but not too hydrated.
Yeah, it's definitely seems like a balancing act. And oh, I'm seeing my favorite thing from Jackie Godby. We're seeing her little plateaus. So this might be her doing a workout, or maybe this is how she's riding and then dealing with the corners. But
this looks like a workout to me. She is still in training mode here. She's about to lap Larson and York, the two Velocity Vixen riders. These two riders doing a nice job riding together. Again, it is really hard in this game to link up. And as you said, if you're not paying attention for 5-10 seconds, it's so easy to lose the wheel that you're with. And so Larson and York doing a nice job staying together, the two Velocity Vixen teammates. Godby cruising at 55K an hour with a little downhill section off of the start-finish line here. We saw in the in-real-life videos, there's a couple places here where I think unless you have a huge gear on that bike, you probably will max out the gearing. 5311, whatever, you'd be pretty close to spinning that out on some of those long downhills. It's going to be pretty easy to achieve that terminal velocity on the way down. So even Jackie Godby using the chance to kind of lighten up on her wattage. There's that York and Larson group we were talking about earlier. Beth York, the Velocity Vixen team.
oh, this is the first time that, at least in my memory, we've seen York in the Zoom room. And I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about Lopez and his exciting kits, but this is our first time talking about purple hair on
Nothing
the feed.
beats this hair. This
Absolutely
is
nothing.
hands down the style winner. Sorry, Marco, you've been dethroned.
Sorry, Marco, you're gonna have to up your game.
You see, even out of the saddle, staying with Larson here, that requires some close attention to the screen. You can see barely breaking eye contact with the screen. That's maybe the hardest part of this virtual racing. At least I think you and I commiserate about that. Just being able to stay on the gas, perfectly focused, modulating that power for the full hour of racing here. There's not a second to look away.
No, definitely not. And that's why, you know, some of these riders have their own very private space where they're not going to be disturbed. There's no distractions. But, you know, behind York, just during that one clip into the pain cave, it looked like there was some action going on behind her, maybe a house member doing something. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that can just seem so stressful when you're doing a race, that all of a sudden someone's in the room and they might be asking a question or might, you know, need something. And, you know, just any one of those moments that break your focus can, you know, really can make for a lot more work on the back end.
Godby down to 21K to go. And should be coming up on the back of the chase group here, the second group on the road pretty soon. Looks like Miller and Valkenhorst doing work at the front. In fact, doing a lot of work on the front. Here's Kim Miller putting the hurt on the field here.
You know, I think the big difference in today's race compared to yesterday's race, of course, you know, different courses and whatnot, but the key difference is that today's race is going to be under 1 hour, whereas yesterday's race was over 2 hours. So very different type of physiology, different type of fueling strategy. So any riders who may have improperly fueled yesterday, if they were able to have a good dinner, they're going to maybe be able to survive a little bit longer today. So I think that we could see something different. Volkenhorst got dropped just before the closing moments of yesterday's race, but this could be a big moment for her to be able to improve on that result from yesterday if she has slightly different physiology that suits these shorter efforts more.
See the difference again in the power profiles here. You are absolutely right that Jackie Godby is hitting her plateaus here. Making the best of the hour on the trainer. Now this is something, obviously, Jackie Godby will have a training plan written for her. Talk a little bit about what it's like from a training perspective, Ellen, in terms of what the role of a coach is for a cyclist. And when we talk about workouts, what does that mean?
Oh, those are some big questions, Brad. Having a coach can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different athletes. Of course, the main thing that pretty much all coaches are going to be doing is writing a workout, and a workout can really be anything. It can be a prescribed easy day where you're just going out and going for an easy ride, all the way up to a highly specific and detailed exercise plan where you're going to be doing this many seconds at this particular power or heart rate, and then this type of effort. And it can be extremely nuanced, and sometimes it can be vague. I know, I worked with Coach Alan Lim, who we see a lot on the talking about the Ceres platform. For me, sometimes he would say, I want you to go out and ride hard enough that you can talk, hard enough that you can still talk, but that it would be annoying if you had to talk. And so sometimes you get these highly specific workouts, and sometimes you get things that are a little bit more open to interpretation. But, the other thing that a lot of coaches are there for their athletes is being, an ear and someone to listen to and someone to be supportive, especially with racing. I think comes a lot of stress of what if I'm not ready, what if I'm not prepared to perform, and a great coach is always going to be there for their athletes to help kind of talk them through some of the challenges and concerns of bike racing.
Sounds like it's as much a mental game as it is a physical game, especially in trainer races like this. That would explain why Dr. Aaron Ayala is so successful here. The sports psychologist knows a little something about tuning the mind up as well. And she finds herself in quite the battle right now. Everybody into the red zone. Ayala out of the saddle.
Looks like Volkenhorst is dropping off just a little bit. She's not too far now, but she's not currently on screen.
About 20 meters off the back. You can see her in the SIS Zoom room, not panicking yet. She's going to put in these short efforts to try to close down the gap. That's what you have to do. It's only going to get worse from here if you don't close this gap now. So Volkenhorst trying to ease into it without going too hard. It's also really easy on RGT to sort of over push. Oh, look at Volkenhorst suffering up there. You can see it on her face. And I think that head shake might be the realization that this one might be a little tougher to close down than she had hoped. So Ayala hit it hard on that climb. I think she was the aggressor, and that might have been what shook Volkenhorst out of the group. So if that was the case, bravo to the Velocity Vixen team, because sensing some weakness, and now that scenario we talked about, 2 versus 2 with the Velocity Vixen teammates and Rose Beast Mode teammates all of a sudden becomes 2 versus 1. Now they just have to do it again and get rid of Kim Miller.
What up, Bullet?
Surprised to see that Ayala was the one doing the work there. I would have thought that would have been a Bronwyn McGregor move, although maybe we missed it and McGregor started it. Ayala just finished it. This is a tough place for Miller now. This is a scenario that we've seen in real life where you have 2 teammates and then 1 solo rider. There's a couple ways that you can kind of beat up on a rider like Kim Miller in a scenario like this. Take turns, taking big pulls at the front. Maybe gap her off the back a little bit, the old Saturn sit-up move where you put her at the back of the line of 3, let the second rider in line gap that off a little bit, and then chase back up. Miller going to keep a close eye on these 2 on the front.
I don't know if this Saturn sit-up would work on RGT, would it? Because that rider would just ride through them?
Yeah, you could use it to sort of just let the lead rider roll away a little bit, because if they did stay on your wheel and they were matching the power of the second rider, then you would be able to let that first rider go. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to fully block them. Miller is going to give them a taste of their own medicine on the way back. She says, all right, you want to go hard on the climbs? Let's see how you do going hard on the climbs every time, not just when you want to do it. Miller seeking revenge for her fallen teammate Valkenhorst out of the breakaway.
She's like, well, if I'm going to be the only person, the only teammate represented in this group, I'm just going to be the only teammate off the front. I'll do it myself. I actually like this,
kind of call the bluff a little bit. Yeah, you may be able to go hard once and drop my teammate. Can you go hard 2 or 3 times and stay with me? So Miller putting in a dig on the way up. Both riders staying with her, but did say take some deposits out of the wattage account.
Yeah, and this is a little stressful for Kim Miller being the only rider with 2 teammates, but we've definitely seen it happen before where the lone rider is able to take the win and outsmart 2 teammates. Sometimes I think it can be maybe just having a little bit too much confidence, in fact, as the 2 teammates are like, yeah, we got this in the bag. But I can think of dozens of examples where the lone represented rider was able to take the win, even when it seemed like the odds were not in their favor.
Now Miller in a little bit of trouble here. She'll close the gap just fine. Getting up to the top of this climb here at 17K to go. Just under. To the all-German squad of Beast Mode presented by Rose, with Miller and Valkenhorst the 2 strongest on the weekend. We see Anders back there today hanging in for 8th spot. So started Dor, Corollas, and Chrome earlier in the ERL series. So now Miller all by herself, the lone Beast Mode Rose jersey up on the front. Back up to Jackie Godby, inside 15K to go for her now. Over to our men's B race. Marco Lopez still in charge up at the front of this group. Looks like they've shed a few out of here. A little smaller than when we last checked in. So we'll call this, if we include Hackleton at 30 meters back, that's 5 clear. Might end up as 4 plus 1. Lopez looking a little sweatier in the cave now. Our 4th place rider, Watkins, has my favorite virtual jersey out of this group while we're handing out fashion recommendations from the booth here. Although I think Gargillo has the best in real life look in the bottom left there.
Yeah, it's hard to beat a sweatband, especially with good hair and a headset over top. We have to give honorable mention to top right, matching the jersey to, I believe, his avatar. Or
Yeah,
is that
that's
just a
Weissman.
coincidence?
Nope.
Yeah.
That is Vaishnavan on the front here. And then, of course, Lopez with the stealth look. Very, very chic today. I'm also going with the all-black look I noticed on Sunday. Maybe it's like Tiger Woods, red on Sunday. You go with the all-black kid on Sunday.
Maybe they're going Black Sabbath.
Nice. Nice. Quite the collection of jerseys behind Mr. Vaishnavan here. You see him shifting through the gears.
He also has a sweatband.
Yeah. It doesn't match the jersey though, so it's like a B- on the sweatband.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Gargullo.
Doug Hackleton in his U.S. Military Endurance Sports Kit. Nice to see the veteran supporters here in the ERL. But seeing more and more riders from that U.S. Military Endurance Sports program on the virtual platforms. So nice to see Doug out here with us in the men's B race. All right, these guys at 13K to go, pretty similar over in the women's race as well. Let's take this chance to thank some sponsors here in the Echelon Racing League, and when we come back, we'll watch our women's A and men's B race wrap up their last 10K.
Of course, there aren't any spots. A few minutes won't hurt anybody. Thanks, Grandma.
Paralyzed Veterans of America works tirelessly every day to create a more accessible America. Let's leave the accessible spaces to the people who actually need them. Whatever the reason, excuses don't excuse. Join PVA and be part of the solution. Honor the spot.
Jackie Godby and Marco Lopez at the front of their respective races here. Jackie Godby leading our women's A race on the left. Marco Lopez leading your men's B race on the right. The difference being that Lopez has some company with him, and Jackie Godby is out on her own on the front. Coming up under 10K of racing to go for Godby here. And Godby still plugging away with the picture-perfect power profile here.
Yeah, and she's doing high power nonetheless. It's not, it's always impressive, even when you're just managing to ride very smoothly with, more sustainable power. But she is doing some pretty massive efforts out there today.
So the jerseys waving in the background for Godby. Even on a day like today, you're going to get pretty sweaty with these short, fast efforts. And so staying cool also a key part of the indoor racing experience. We always see Godby's soigneur, John Cooper, on camera every once in a while. He comes in with the fully zipped up fleece, the hat, although that's also because he is usually just wrapped up his own race as well.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting a signature Jackie Godby look right now. She's pedaling, super focused, jerseys waving in the background. You can see just her little tufts of hair, blowing in the wind, looking pretty much like a superhero. This is a signature Jackie Godby Zoom room right now.
Each lap is 2K. So we have around 5 laps left.
Our producers have found John Cooper. If you look just in the bottom of the screen here, you can see John. I hate to be creeping into the Godby Cooper residence here, but hello, John. Oh, there we go. Oh, we got a graphic for him and everything. I love it.
I have to say I'm a little relieved that I'm not the only creeper noticing John Cooper in the mirror.
Back to what is now a group of 3. Valkenhorst now completely gone out of this group. We saw her slowly drifting off the back earlier. That gap has now gone up to 1.5 kilometers. So it looks like she pulled the plug on the chase effort up to Ayala, Miller, and McGregor. And all of a sudden, this looking a lot like yesterday's finish. Remember, it was McGregor that went earlier. Now, we've been talking a lot about Erin Ayala today. just because Ayala's the best sprinter in this group, and this is a criterium day where typically sprinters will have their sort of run of the course. But this course is so unique with this last uphill kick that I am wondering if this may be a better finish for McGregor because there's so much elevation in the last lap. There's so many ups and downs. I don't know if Ayala's sprint translates to an uphill finish like we have here in downtown Fayetteville.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation, Brad. I was kind of wondering the same thing myself a little bit earlier. And of course, Erin Ayala is, I think, like a natural criterium racing, a natural sprinter. So I think this length of race is a little bit more suited to her, just being on the shorter side, being such a punchy rider. But I do think that McGregor has a really good chance today, just with that monstrous effort that she showed yesterday. Just today's finish is a little bit non-traditional for a criterium.
And then Miller going to be the wild card here. I'm not sure which way to lean on Kim Miller's finishing kick. It's really about a set amount of time and the effort that you can do in that time. Yesterday it was about 2 minutes on the final climb, and Zach Nerho has great 2-minute power on the men. Obviously Jackie Godby has great 2-hour power in the women. She stayed away. McGregor put in a push in her last kick up to the line, but today it's more like a minute power, maybe even less on that last climb up to the finish line. So we'll see if Ayala's power translates uphill here in RGT in a little under 9K from now.
Next time we cross the line, I'll be 4 to go. So I think GC's out of the question. Going for the stage win.
I guess the same tactics apply here in this group of three. You have two choices. You can either launch a gamble early or take the insurance to sit in and try and sprint it out. It's going to come down to probably who's feeling the best out of this group of three. Wouldn't be surprised to see all three of these riders drag racing to the line either. Maybe this final hill is the great equalizer, and all three sprinted out to the line together.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, these riders are all so evenly matched. It would not come as a surprise to me to see this come down to a bunch sprint. And I do think, we've talked a lot about this finishing climb and how this may not suit Ayala, but at the end of the day, she is just a very, very strong rider who is able to just stand up and give it the business. So I would not be surprised if, she does come back and really create a great sprint at the end.
Back in the red zone for all three of them, tipping 7 watts per kilo here up at the front for Kim Miller. Big effort on the way up the hill here. I wonder if Miller is trying to play the long game in the last 8K here and try and wear these two out. McGregor and Ayala doing a good job of keeping her within striking distance. Be able to get there, but certainly dipped into the reserves for that one to close it down to Miller here. So Miller establishing some early dominance in that finishing climb. Maybe starting to test the legs here. You've only got what I think will be 4 more times up that climb. So Miller starting to put the pressure on the Vixens.
4 to go.
McGregor a little late to get back into the group, but she'll get there no problem. Just wasted a few watts. Watching Ayala and McGregor to see if there's any communication, see if they reach for their devices at the same time, or if we can watch them talking back and forth, maybe trying to work out some strategy here. But a lot of times, you don't really need a strategy here because it's just going to be whoever feels the best. We're going to throw as many watts as we can at the problem in the final climb and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, at the end of the day, in a race like this, a pretty good strategy is don't get dropped, sprint hard at the end.
And I'm not even sure that Miller's effort earlier was intentional in trying to wear these riders out. It may just been some natural separation, as happens on a climb, but we'll see the next few times up. If she keeps hitting it and keeps that pressure on every time on that way up to the finish, that tells me that that's where she's going to try and win this race. That's where she's going to try and shake these two Velocity Vixen riders. Yeah, and here she goes again. So Miller is putting pressure on because from the front here, from the bottom of the climb, she's first into the red zone. Miller trying to shake these Vixens early. I like this strategy. When you're outnumbered, you got to take some big swings to knock these two down.
Yeah, and she looks really steady as well. Honestly, all three of the riders still look really solid. It looks like McGregor might be working a little bit harder than some of the other riders, but also that sometimes riders are just really hard to read as to how hard they're going. You know, Mason Roca in our men's race, I think, is a little bit more animated than maybe that of Luca versus Lee. So you would think that he was working so much harder than Luca when really, in reality, they're all going extremely hard. So it's so hard to say, but it does look like Kim Miller up until this very moment was very, very composed.
McGregor, the one that's staying on the wheel here. Ayala in third spot at the back of this group, and now Miller gapping McGregor. This is where this race is going to happen. If McGregor and Ayala can stay with Miller to the last time up the climb, I think they'll be able to hold on and pass Miller to the finish.
Yeah, I think that this is a little bit of a feather in Ayala and McGregor's cap if they're able to keep her in their reins, because clearly Miller is worried about it coming down to a final sprint, so she's trying to force that separation earlier. So if she's unable to drop them, I think they know that she'll probably be coming up a little bit more fatigued and a little less confident into the final couple hundred meters.
Godby just picking up Julia Valkenhorst as she continues to lap riders here. Down to 3.2K to go for Godby. Valkenhorst and Godby going to hang out together for a little bit here.
Going to come down to
nice that Jackie Godby gets to ride with someone for a few minutes.
It's going to be
That gets lonely out there at the top. Going to go by York and Larson. Valkenhorst doing a good job.
This is a really big effort from Valkenhorst. It's almost as if she wasn't able to maybe do that effort so early on, but once she had a slightly longer warm-up, it looks like she's really able to maintain a pretty impressive amount of power. So this is kind of an interesting situation happening here. Just looking at her watts per kilo, she was doing, you know, pretty significant power riding with Jackie Godby, which is interesting coming this late in the race and now being a lap down on our chasers.
Well, just like Godby, Valkenhorst trying to make the best out of a day alone on the road. So trying to up that wattage a little bit, challenge herself when Godby comes by, as Jackie Godby makes her way under 2K now. She'll be heading out for her last lap on this virtual course in downtown Fayetteville. Meanwhile, Miller staying on the gas here with 4.2K for this group of three. McGregor going to counter this move. And Ayala trying to hang on here. It's going to be a great finish here.
Yeah, the punch is already being thrown here. Bad news for Ayala. She's still in it, but this is going to take a big effort for her to get back. She's now 25 meters behind, so she is really going to have to start sounding those alarm bells if she wants to get back on and contest the podium here today. And it looks like Miller's even started to form a little bit of a separation over McGregor. I think she's going to be able to bring it back, but yeah, this is going to be a very, very dynamic few K.
Looks like Ayala in some trouble now. Gap over 100 meters. And not coming back. So I think this is what Miller was trying to do here, accomplishing exactly what she set out for and shaking one of these Velocity Vixen riders. So now the pressure on Bronwyn McGregor to beat Kim Miller to the line.
Yeah, she's definitely still in her sight, only 20 meters separating them. It looks like it's going out even further, but she still has 3K and change to maintain this gap. So still a lot of wiggle room, but it looks like this is what she's wanted all along. So it is hard to imagine that she's not going to be able to hold this gap, because it just seems like this is exactly how she wanted it to shake out.
Yeah, perfectly played by Miller today. If this one works out for her, this is, we were talking about earlier, the importance of using the strategy in a situation like this. And I think Miller knew that she was going to be outgunned in a sprint against Erin Ayala, who has been pretty much unstoppable in the flat sprints, and Bronwyn McGregor, who has been smoking these riders over the last 2 days in the Walmart Joe Martin stage race. So tactically, I think this was Miller's only play, certainly the best play, and it looks like it's paying off so far for her. Meanwhile, Jackie Godby inside her last 200 meters on the way in, where Godby will continue her undefeated streak in Season 3 of the Echelon Racing League. Perfect so far in Year 3 of the ERL. She's going to go 3 for 3 this weekend, as turned in the fastest time in the Devil's Den time trial, the Mount Sequoia Road Race yesterday, and another solo win today in the Experience Fayetteville Downtown Criterium. Jackie Godby, your winner here today, but the battle is Bronwyn McGregor trying to hold on to Kim Miller. Godby still going all in on the day and still cooked afterwards.
Yeah, she really looks, it's so remarkable how hard she's able to go without anyone really contesting her. The fact that she's able to put in just such a massive effort and then come across the line completely smoked with really no external competition just goes to show how internally motivated she is.
Ayala back to 180 meters back. She's going to be out of this one, so now this will be a head-to-head battle in the last 1.5K between Kim Miller and Bronwyn McGregor here. That's McGregor on the left, Kim Miller on the right. And this turned into a good old-fashioned drag race between these two. I think the odds makers probably going to tip towards McGregor here just based on past results this weekend. When you're hot in a stage race like this. But I think we are seeing Miller riding a different race than she has before. Tactically, Miller is riding on a different level today.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's still a kilometer for her. If she starts to wind it up super early, she may be able to achieve a little bit of a separation over McGregor. But I think once we get to the point that McGregor stands up and starts to go, I don't know if anyone's going to be able to go with her, especially if yesterday was any indication. But, we still have just over a kilometer to see how things shake out. But yeah, this is going to take a very, very powerful effort from Miller in order to be able to challenge McGregor on this final drag.
inside their last 1,000 meters now for these two. Waiting for a jump if it's going to happen. If not, they just drag to the line together. Down to 600 meters. You see McGregor checking the power a little bit. Here goes Miller. She'll be first to launch. McGregor responds right on time. Now McGregor can afford to sit on Miller here. That's going to be the play, I think, for Braun McGregor. What she's trying to do is just stay in the draft of Kim Miller. Let Miller hit it hard, save that wattage, and then try and make the pass at the last minute. Let's see if McGregor can do it today.
Miller pulling away a little bit. McGregor's trying to run out of real estate, but still 200 meters left. So she's standing up now. She's going to try to bring her back. A couple meters of separation, but it looks like now she's going to go, and I think that she's going to go for good this time.
Caught Miller off guard. Did you see Miller didn't get out of the saddle until McGregor went by her? That is exactly how you want to launch an attack. So it's going to cost Miller a couple seconds on the uptick to get up there. Could not have been a better attack from Braun McGregor here. The perfect timing lets Miller go, sits on the wheel, drops back a little bit, and then slingshots to the front for Braun McGregor. She will hold on for second place, and Kim Miller going to have to settle for third. The Velocity Vixens have another great race in the Echelon Racing League as Braun McGregor takes another field sprint behind Jackie Godby for second place. Erin Ayala not able to hang with that group today, but she will hold on for fourth place as her Velocity Vixen teammate takes second place out there today. Ayala not going to get the chance to sprint here in the Fayetteville Criterium, but she'll have plenty more chances to do that. All right, so Ayala making her way through the line. That'll lock up fourth place for her, with two Velocity Vixen riders inside the top five out there today, with McGregor in second and Ayala in fourth. As they finish up, let's go to our SIS Zoom room where Emma Watson has our race winner. Go.
Thanks, Brad. I'm here with this weekend's Triple Crown winner. 3 for 3 on the weekend, Jackie, with the time trial road race and today's crit. How are you feeling after all of this?
Absolutely blasted. Oh my goodness. I mean, we got 3 races that hit every single energy system, and I would be lying if I said the first thing I wanted to do was not just sit down, close my eyes, and eat some chocolate right now, because oh my goodness, this was a rough weekend that hit every energy system.
Compared to yesterday's race,